Edit, this blew up. I honestly didn't expect to get this kind of reception. I'd like to thank my mom, dad, my sister for being the rock in my life, my cat who bites my leg every morning, the mailman, the ice cream store down the street. Jokes aside, for the guys who are saying they weren't wrong about being ugly, realistically, there's going to be someone who finds you attractive. Story 1. My friends at college would compliment my looks. Also, now that I typed it out, I realized that I only get compliments from my male friends. They might all be gay, or maybe they're just being nice. Story 2. In my early 20s, I was chubby and not particularly popular in high school. It didn't help that I already struggled with self-esteem issues, and there was a girl at lunch who called me ugly every day, for some reason. I met a coworker who was an amateur bodybuilder, and we became friends. He inspired me to be kinder to myself, to look at myself objectively, but to be optimistic about the things I want to change because they can change. I lost 80 pounds, and it turns out I'm kind of a snack. I still have self-esteem issues, but I've found it helps to develop a sense of fashion, too. If I'm not feeling confident, a great outfit helps. It warms my heart that I can help inspire so many people who feel like I did. I never thought it'd be me. Maybe it'll be you. Also, shout out to everyone telling me I'm hot. Story 3. I was ugly. I can objectively say that looking back at my photos from high school, I was a skinny, pin-headed, weird-looking teen. I filled out in my early 20s. I ran into one of the old popular and pretty clique girls in a club, and she was like, "Tiger nose? You got hot." I've been running on that compliment for about 12 years now. Story 4. I was never physically unattractive, only mentally. I took the time and effort to clean my thoughts and language, began developing habits like reading and leatherwork to find passion in things that would lead to interesting conversation. When I was mentally attractive, it made being physically good-looking easier. I started a skincare routine, began going to the gym, and improved my diet. The two really do go hand in hand, and it is much easier to establish physical attractiveness once you've become mentally attractive. Confidence goes a long way, and there's only so much you can fix physically. Most importantly, when I became mentally attractive, I began to believe I was attractive because people naturally were drawn to me. Not sexually or intimately per se, but people wanted to be around me and spend time with me. Edit. Thanks to the kind strangers who gave me my first awards. I'm pretty new to Reddit and have never had a comment with this much interaction. I'm trying to respond and talk to everyone. My direct messages are open if anyone wants to talk or share stories about what mentally unattractive/mentally clean means to them. Story 5. I used to think I was ugly, and Tinder really confirmed my suspicions. Then I learned that I become 10 times hotter when I remove my shirt. An unfortunate face can be forgiven if you're in good shape. Story 6. I got in shape sophomore year, but in my head, I was still the weird fat kid from middle school. Then I scored the most gorgeous woman in all of Texas and thought, yeah, I think I'm one of those hot dudes now. Story 7. I'm in therapy to try to change this mindset. I thought I was ugly until I got a girlfriend. Then I thought I was handsome because she kept saying it all the time. Then she broke up with me for a better-looking person, and now I think I'm ugly again. Trying very hard not to make being in a relationship what gives me self-value. Started meal prepping healthy meals each week, cardio every day, weights every third day, intermittent fasting, cut out processed sugar. Hopefully, someday soon I'll look in the mirror and think I look good. So far, I've dropped from 245 pounds. I'm 29 years old and 6 feet 5 inches, to 196 pounds. The goal is 175 to 180. I still think I'm overweight and unattractive, but with all this plus therapy, things should change soon enough. Story 8. I still struggle, but my girlfriend, who is a model and fashion person, pursued me relentlessly. Her reaction when we see each other after a few days makes me feel incredibly loved and desired. Story 9. Handsome guy who thought he was ugly all his life means he is much less likely to be superficial. Likewise, an ugly guy who thought he was handsome all his life means he's probably superficial and delusional. Story 10. I perceive myself to be average looking on my best days and well below that 90% of the time. This, despite being called handsome or good-looking. But those offering these opinions are almost all middle-aged or age-appropriate women who have recently gotten out of relationships or marriages and have stated how nice or sweet they find me. Story 11. I was working at my local Safeway as a teen, and one of my coworkers regularly called me pretty boy. I noticed I started getting a bunch of positive attention from women around that time. I was very body conscious, shy, and was convinced I was hideous, so it was also confusing to me to receive attention for my looks. Story 12. Whenever I was shirtless, people would accuse me of showing off, or they would feel the need to tell me that I'm not even that good looking. I was no longer just casually shirtless. I was perceived to be a conceited person trying to show off his body. During casual conversations, I would say things like, you know when you're running shirtless and you get catcalled, and none of my friends could ever relate. Granted, most people don't run shirtless every day. But even my passionate runner friends said they had never been catcalled. I was the only one, and it happened on a weekly basis. When I created a Grindr account, I realized how women feel on Tinder. I received dozens of messages a day from men hitting on me. The problem was, most of them had no profile picture or a single letter for a name because they were discreet. I literally had so many men in my direct messages I could not tell them apart. Eventually, I fell in love with one guy I connected with and gave him the title of boyfriend. One day we were talking about the Grindr experience of receiving dozens of messages from unintelligent amorous men, and he couldn't relate. He hardly ever received a reply, which is why he was shocked that I, someone out of his league, had messaged him back. Story 13. I was bullied in school as a late developer. In my early 20s, I was annoyed that women were always looking at me, and I didn't know why. It's strange that very few women will actually tell a guy he's good looking. Story 14. I'd say in general I'm not unattractive, only when I smile. I know, but whatever you're thinking is not the case. Hear me out. I legitimately look like a serial killer when I smile, thanks to my naturally sleepy eyes and my dimples. That's a big reason I never smile in pictures. Other than that, I think I look good. I didn't know this back in middle school. I seriously thought I was unattractive. I realized I wasn't when I grew up a bit more. I looked better and better, and now I'm 19 and I'm growing a beard. I look significantly better. Story 15. I genuinely did go from ugly to good looking. So about 2 years ago, when my weightlifting became physically obvious. Before and after and after. This is weight loss surgery combined with a vigorous and extremely consistent exercise routine over about 5 years. It was and is a lot of work. It's worth it. Story 16. I didn't. There have been about 3 times in my life at 35 that attractive girls thought I was hot. 2 out of 3 of those times they just kind of messed around with me, did not sleep with me, and then ghosted, so I guess they didn't think I was that hot. In general, I get 0 matches on apps, have never had a single success approaching a woman in a bar or club, and have only had girls I know like me 3 times, 2 of which turned out to be almost, so they don't really count. I have had a girlfriend twice in my life. The first one I settled for after years of looking for someone I felt mutual attraction with and coming up empty-handed. The last was the first and, to date, only woman I've ever been attracted to who actually got together with me. When I told her about my romantic and sexual history, none to speak of, she was surprised and said she thought I was not unattractive, so she didn't know why. But then again, I was just a rebound or distraction from her divorce, so maybe that made her criteria for mate selection more flexible. I don't know. She kept suggesting to me that I should start working out and that it would be easy for me to get fit if I did. So that seems to signal to me she was less than satisfied with what I was bringing to the table. Even if she genuinely did think I was very attractive, I think it all boils down to the old saying, there's no accounting for taste. Even if you are ugly to a certain extent, you've got about 1,000,000 to 1 odds of stumbling upon someone who thinks you're cute anyway, and all her friends are like, why? Because it's absolutely the case that most people don't. But 1,000,000 to 1 odds are pretty bad. You'll be very lucky if you find this once or twice in your life. Most probably won't. But I've known a lot of people in my life, many of them attractive. Whenever, as a guy, you vent a little about the difficulties of not being attractive, you inevitably get bombarded with worthless platitudes or reminded of how much worse women have it. Sociologically they do, but I wasn't making a point about society. I'm just trying to express my own feelings about my own personal life experience in my own post. But believe it or not, I don't live in a bubble. I've known other people. Some of them have been attractive. I have seen the difference and I know it's real, so please don't try to fool me. My attractive friend who turned me on to dating apps back in 2009 was dating a different person every weekend that he met on an app, and he rarely failed to pick up a girl from a bar or club if and whenever he wanted to, and sometimes took a bonus girl home when he wasn't even trying to. Point being, the experiences of attractive versus unattractive people are so radically different that I deeply doubt there's much in the way of genuinely attractive people who were ever actually genuinely confused. And most of the posts here seem to be, girls didn't like me for years. Then I got a girlfriend, and she says I'm hot. I'm like, yeah, obviously the girl you're with likes you. Congratulations, you got lucky. But if you were actually attractive, you would have never had any shortage of girls who liked you. See what I'm saying? And God forbid, but if your current girlfriend ever leaves you, you're probably not going to be the super attractive guy suddenly surrounded by new admirers because the last girlfriend said you're hot. You're going to be right back at square one, waiting a long time to get lucky again. And that's how you know you're not. Honestly, I think 90% of the time, genuinely attractive people who think they're not have psychological issues, probably resulting from trauma or abuse, that eroded their self-esteem to the point it severely distorts their perception to the extent that no amount of new admirers will convince them. I bet this happens more to women than men too because of abusers. In that case, there's never going to be a moment when they just casually realize they're attractive. It's a psychological problem. The only way over that is going to be years of therapy, not just an oops, guess I was attractive after all moment. Besides that, I can imagine kids going through puberty and realizing they're attractive when all the girls like them. But that's not the same thing because they actually weren't attractive before or had no concept of attractiveness because they were prepubescent. So, I think the answer to this question is that it's mostly nonsense, and there is no answer to this question. Story 17. I was at high school one time, and a girl came to me and literally said, "You're cute. Do you want to go out sometime?" I legitimately thought it was a prank until she actually came to the date. Story 18. I was never ugly, but a girl in middle school loved to bully me because I would get upset quite easily. She used to mock my fish lips, and my nose and just about everything else. It took me until my mid-20s to realize the serious damage she had done to my self-image, and the dissonance between my self-image and the feedback I would receive, being told I was attractive, handsome, and so on. Meanwhile, I looked up the girl not too long ago, and she looks like she fell off a potato truck. Karma is a magical thing. Story 19. Just recently, it came to me just like the memes. Those girls actually liked me. I brought it up to my wife, who said, "No wonder you're hot. Just look at how women react around you." So I started paying attention, and yeah, I guess I'm not as ugly as I thought. Story 20. Broken nose. After about the 20th time being told it was hot, I accepted it. Sort of. I still kind of hate it, but I accept that girls like it. My significant other certainly does. Story 21. Funny how most of the comments for, "How did you gain confidence / why are you happy?" have the answer, "My girlfriend told me so." This whole thread makes me want to put a bullet in my skull. Story 22. As I grew up, I noticed I got less attention compared to other guys, unless it's for practical reasons. I'm on a complete rejection rate from girls. So, I think it's been going the other way. Story 23. Disclaimer. Woman here. I'm in my 30s and my boyfriend is in his 50s. A 17-year difference between us. He's very conscious of the way he looks, even though I think he looks like Adonis himself. There are so many things I adore, like the wrinkle that accentuates any emotion or expression on his face. But I can't tell him this, because he'll get hurt thinking I'm pointing out his wrinkles. He thinks he looks awful in the morning and rushes to the bathroom to shower immediately after, while I'm sitting there with tiny hearts in my eyes, looking at his messy hair. Dear men, people are different. You would be surprised by what some consider attractive. It might even be that annoying thing you're always trying to hide. I know it's cliché, but beauty really is in the eye of the beholder. Story 24. When female coworkers started calling me cute and attractive, and when the gay guy at work invited me to his place multiple times just to snuggle, I never actually went, though. Story 25. I suffered from the opposite illness, sadly. I was never unconfident in my face. I am just a normal person. Even though if I were a girl, I would totally date myself, but that could be the exposure effect. I was always in my head and standoffish, never letting people approach me. A large part of that was probably feeling weak, being 6 feet 3 inches and 146 pounds at the time. Now that I think about it, it's wild how many girls tried to chat with me during middle and high school. Hindsight is 2020, I guess. Story 26. Almost 40. An amazing woman I've started seeing admitted she was so distracted and nervous on our second date because of how attractive I was. I'll also fully admit, I'm in the best shape I've ever been, and most importantly, I'm more confident in who I am. Whether you're visually attractive or not, confidence matters more. And I'm aware that attractive people usually have more confidence since they've grown up with the advantage.